Okay, we have quorum. We're on item 26. Item 26 is application to remove a private tree, 38 Deloraine Avenue. Is there anyone here who would like to speak to this item? No one has registered with the clerk.
Madam Chair, I will move deferral of this item.
Oh, no. No, I have something on this one.
Cut down the trees?
In my word.
Did you make a mistake? Okay. Councillor Carmichael Greb.
I would like to refer this back to the Director of Urban Forestry for a review of the new information provided by the applicant.
Oh, David just stepped out of the room. Sorry. Sorry. Councillor Shiner. Here he is. Okay, your motion again? Not yours, hers.
I would like to refer this back to the Director of Urban Forestry for review of new information.
Of new information. All right? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. That's item 26. Item 27. Application to remove a private tree at 36th Mason Boulevard. Is there anyone here who would like to speak to this item? Councillor Carmichael Greb.
I would also like to refer this item back to the Director of Urban Forestry, please.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 28, 123 Sheldrake Boulevard. Yes, item 28. I have a speaker on my list, only one. If you're not on the list to speak, please register with the clerks. Dino DeVito? Welcome, sir. You have 5 minutes.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon. I'm the owner of 123 Sheldrake. The reason I'm here is I was informed by right away that the west side curb cut is going to be moved in 1 meter, which has an impact on the east side curb cut of my home where the tree is located. So I'll just take you through some pictures. Okay, oops. So this is the original home, and you can see on the west side where the number 1 is, the curb cut goes all the way to the street. The home, my neighbor, is right on the lot line. You can't see it on this picture, but the distance between the curb cut on the west side and my neighbor is considered not parking. It's not big enough to hold a parking spot. So this is the original curb cut. This was the original home. We fast forward a few years later, built my new home. There's a 4-foot setback on the west side, and as you can see, if right-of-way moves over the west side curb cut, it creates an issue in terms, well, there's 3 things that will happen. One is it prevents us from getting out in a safe manner. Number 2, it creates a spot there where you see that truck. And number 3 is we live on a bend, so it further complicates it. It makes it very unsafe for us to come out of the home, as well as any pedestrians walking across makes it also unsafe. I just have a few other pictures as well. So this is the same situation. In this case, we do have a car driving on the street, just to amplify the situation in terms of how unsafe it is. And then this picture actually shows that right away has come along, and you can see with the white mark, they've actually marked it in terms of moving it in. So you can see it's quite a bit in terms of how they're going to move that west side curb cut inwards. And then this just shows in terms of where my house is located around the bend. So basically, I had 3 options. Number 1, go to right away and say, please don't move that curb cut in because it's going to create an unsafe environment. They came back and said denied. Then I went to forestry. They said talk to forestry if you can have the curb cut moved over on the west side, but that would require removing a tree. So I filed a submission to remove the tree, and forestry came back and denied. So my third option was I called traffic, and they came along and they said, yeah, you shouldn't have parking along that bend. It's very dangerous, and they support no parking along that bend. But I suggested to them, rather than have parking along the entire bend, just have that one spot in front of my home, and they had an issue with just having one spot, but they said the entire bend would have no parking. So I've come up with 3 different options in terms of how to resolve this issue. I have an issue in terms of an unsafe environment backing out of my home. I do need some resolution, and I'm at a point where I am looking for resolution on this issue. At the last meeting, the discussion came up in terms of what was built and what was approved. So I've gone back, and there's the approved right there. So I went back and I looked at the original site plan, and you can see we have approved the double driveway going up towards the sidewalk. It slightly bends in, and then it wiggles its way out onto the road. But more importantly, if you notice, that curb cut has remained where it originally is. And so when we designed the house, we designed it this way, whereby we could kind of wiggle out towards the west under the assumption that that curb cut would stay where it is. However, you're now coming back and changing the rules and saying, well, that curb cut needs to move in. Had I known that, I may have designed the house a bit differently. In fact, I might have flipped it where I have the driveway coming out the other way. So to come back now at this point in time and say the curb cut's going to be moved is not fair.
Okay, is that the end of your presentation, sir?
Yes, it is.
All right.
Okay.
Question?
So, Councillor Shiner asked this to be deferred to this meeting, so to get additional information. Again, my understanding is you went to the OMB. I guess the Committee of Adjustment did not approve the, what do you call those, reverse grade, below grade garage? We stopped building them. It's now against our bylaw. So you went to the OMB to get that approved?
Yes, that's correct, but I'm not sure how that relates to this.
Well, it does relate to this because the tree at the end of the driveway is part and parcel of that approval.
Okay.
And my understanding is, and I guess I should ask staff as well, is the OMB said to protect that tree as part of the approval of the below-grade garage.
That's
I'm
correct.
trying to find out.
Yeah.
That is correct. The OMB said protect the tree.
Correct, and we don't have an issue with that. As per our site plan, we clearly recognize the tree in our site plan, and we clearly say we will go around it. So from the outset, we never had an issue with the tree, nor did we suggest anything other than that. It clearly shows on the drawings we were going to go around the tree. Never had an issue.
Okay, and just again, I asked you this last time, but my colleagues deal with multiple files and are very busy people. My office did ask you to go out twice to canvass your neighbors about changing the parking regulations in the area.
That's correct, and as I mentioned to you at the last meeting, it's a very sensitive topic. I'm going to live here for 20, 25 years. I want to have a good relationship with my neighbors. I know they'll be up in arms if I suggest no parking. As well as I did speak to traffic, they had suggested that your office was also going to provide a survey as well.
I think it's not, well, a template.
Correct,
A
something like that.
template for a survey. What we do is we ask residents to go out and talk to their neighbors about, I think that's the right thing to do, to talk to your neighbors about changing parking regulations. And so we are happy to provide templates for residents to go out and chat with their neighbors, have them over, have a coffee, and talk about what to do. But we don't like, nobody at the city likes not to engage with the local residents and make sure they're not abreast of what potential changes may come down the road. But again, I just wanted to reemphasize, the OMB approved even though the city says no to them, the OMB approved it, but within that, you're concurring that the tree was to be saved.
Absolutely.
So it's a bit of a rock and a hard place.
Absolutely. As per our approved drawings, we never had an issue with the tree, and we made it very clear that we would go around the tree. But we also made it clear, please leave the west side curb cut there, which allows to go out. So we never had an issue from the beginning. All I'm saying now is not you.
Yeah.
The city has come back and said, we're going to move the west side curb cut. Well, that's not appropriate given that I've now built a house and I'm relying on that wiggle room to get out.
So what is before council really? Our options are remove a tree or change the parking regulations or
Leave the curb cut the way it is.
leave the curb cut the way it is.
So
Okay,
the 3 options which I've investigated, all 3 correct.
Right. I'm just trying, because, it was a month ago, and these
Yep.
are very busy, my colleagues are very busy people. It's very hard for them to remember what we talked about a month ago. So that's helpful, and I guess I'm sure my colleagues will have questions for staff.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yes. Question? Councillor Pasternak and then Councillor Shiner.
We noticed in the picture, there's it looks like a front yard parking pad. Was that there when you bought the house, or is that something you put in recently?
No, that was there with the original home.
With the
So
original home.
when we bought the home.
Okay, thank you.
You put up a picture there where the existing curb cut is and some interlocking stone. Can you put that back up?
Sure.
It was a second last picture or something you had. So there's interlocking stone there. That's what you want to remain?
Well, we haven't finalized the driveway or the landscaping, because my understanding is that the city will come and they'll have to redo the sidewalks with the deposit I put up,
Can you
and they'll
just-
redo that area.
Can I get an answer
Yep.
to my question?
Yes, it is.
So you want the piece where the interlocking stone is to remain where it currently is?
That's correct.
Is that not in front of your neighbor's property?
No, the neighbor, the home is built right on the lot line, so it goes right on the lot line.
So that follows that they are on the lot line and you're over from the lot line?
Yes, that's correct.
They have a 0 lot line on their side?
That's correct. I mentioned that last time, as well as, in fact, their windowsill is an encroachment on my property. That's how close it is.
And the city is recommending that it be moved over to what point on that? I can't see the mark.
They've indicated 1 meter over, so roughly where,
The pile of asphalt is?
yeah, pretty much, yeah, just a bit over from there, correct.
And what width would that leave you between where they want it and where the other side of the curb cut is?
I'm not sure, but I believe it may be one driveway.
So you don't know the width?
I do not know.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions of the deputant? Thank you, sir. You may be seated. Thank you. Staff to the floor, please. Councillor Shiner.
So, who's been out there? I see smiling faces. Have one of you been out there?
I haven't actually been to the site. I do have photos of the site as it is today, as well as staff's information on the application for the driveway.
So then could you put a photo up so I can ask a question on your photo?
Sure.
So then we'll be asking questions about the same thing you might be answering. Okay. So, is that during construction or is that because of another thing?
So that's, you'll see the tree protection around the tree, and those are some of the photos that we have from the summer of last year. So there is still some construction, but you can see the driveway is completed.
Okay, so, am I correct that transportation then wants to move over the curb cut to approximately where the edge of the tree protection is?
So it's two things. We want the driveway aligned directly with the road. I can actually show you a photo of the site plan.
Show me what you want. Well, oh, heck, I can't.
So I can show you that. So the final actual driveway will be 5 meters in width, is what we're proposing.
What is it currently?
Closer to 6.5, I think it is.
Oh, so you want to reduce that to about straight?
To where the pen is. So, yeah, so we just want it, it's not going to be completely aligned if the tree, which is what the report is for, it doesn't get removed, but we would be looking to reduce the access.
So it goes from a double to a single?
No, a single would be 3 meters,
Oh, and what are you proposing?
5,
And what's a double?
6.
So it's almost a double?
Yeah, it's almost a double.
And it would be somewhere around, you were showing me,
The edge of the concrete there. The unit paving is here. Can't
so
see.
really it's removing the unit paving?
Yep, and removing the unit paving and a little bit of the extra curb, a little bit of curb on the other side.
Do we have a zoning bylaw about the width of a driveway from the property line?
We do. The minimum width, or the maximum width of a driveway can be 6 meters in North York.
And how far from the property line? Is there not a bylaw that requires new driveways to
Sorry?
be a meter over?
Did I?
So where is that? There's
Sorry.
somewhere where, I thought the new bylaw, 2013, required driveways to be a meter from the property line.
We usually typically use half a meter as a setback, which is what we've proposed here.
So you're talking about bringing that driveway over 20 inches from the property line? Moving it 20 inches?
Uh,
That's what you're proposing?
25, yeah, and there is a little bit that does encroach on the neighbor's property or their boulevard.
Sorry, is the current driveway encroaching on the neighbor's boulevard?
Slightly.
Well, how can you tell me that when the applicant told me it's not?
If you go all the way down to here, this is the property line. Their driveway comes all the way out past here.
Oh, so the current driveway in the stone is on the neighbor's property?
Yeah, slightly.
And what you want to do is remove the stone that's on the neighbor's property?
We want to narrow the driveway. Driveways are meant to be at a right angle with the roadway. That's
Yeah.
when they're safest. And so we're looking to have the driveway be at a right angle to the roadway.
Now, do we have to do anything at council today to do that? Because that's not in front of us.
You're right.
So we don't have to do anything. We just have to deny the tree removal, and you will then go forward with the driveway being reduced to 5 meters, which is almost a double driveway, and it'll be parallel to the edge of the property, and you consider it'll be safe.
Correct.
Thank you.
Other questions of staff? Other questions of
Sorry,
staff?
I just want to confirm, because there's I've heard two different things. So it's actually half a meter? Like, I think I heard a meter, but it's actually not a full meter, it's half a meter, is that correct?
So we're looking to reduce it half a meter from the property line. And the total width of the new proposed driveway will be 5 meters.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that.
Any other questions of staff? Go ahead.
So, just for clarity's sake, and I know I'm being somewhat repetitive, and it's mostly for my colleagues, the only thing we're voting on today is the staff report from Forestry regarding whether to approve or deny the request for removal.
Yeah, that's the report that's
the
before
only
you.
thing in front of us, nothing to do with curb cuts and encroachments and, driveway width and, okay, thank you.
So, yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you. So bringing it back into council, speakers, please. Go ahead.
This is a very difficult situation because, as you see, there's not many, we're kind of backed into a corner. And we all know what happens at city council is that city council loves their trees and basically approves every single one of them, and I do myself. So, and I think a lot of people around this horseshoe as well. So I think I have to just move staff recommendations, Madam Chair.
Okay, staff recommendations have been moved. Councillor Shiner.
Sorry, I'm not choking on staff recommendations. Madam Speaker, the application in front of us was to remove a tree because the intention was to straighten out the driveway as it was difficult. I believe that's the honest answer about what's in front of us now. Everything else has come about because staff have said no to remove the tree, which had to stay there as a result of the OMB decision, where the city actually said no to the house itself, no to the driveway, no to the below-grade driveway. I don't see any reason to do anything different. And in fact, when I asked the question, whose property is the stone on, I was told two different answers. One by the applicant who said it's on his property, and one by city staff who said it's on the neighbor's property. And I tend to believe city staff that it's on the neighbor's property. And secondly, You get a single driveway. If you're lucky enough to get more than that, you're lucky, because that's what we normally permit. A double driveway is not your as of right across the curb, and this is almost a double driveway. It's 5 out of 6 meters, so I'm supporting my colleague's recommendation to deny the removal of the tree, and I don't see any need to do anything else.
All right, you have a motion by Councillor Robinson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next item, 29. Is there anyone here to speak to item 29, front yard parking appeal, 220 Roselawn Avenue? I'm sorry?
Is it 103 Roslyn?
No.
220 Roselawn Avenue. No one is here?
No.
Councillor?
I would like to defer this to the June meeting, please.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 30, 103 Roslyn Avenue. Adam Brander.
I optimistically penciled in good morning as my opening remark. But good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of council. My name's Adam Brander, and I'm an architect and the agent for the homeowner at 103 Roslyn. I'm here to request appeal for a parking on a residential front yard at 103 Roslyn, the subject property. Upon submitting the initial application in April of last year, City of Toronto off-street parking staff confirmed that the application generally looked good and met all the criteria for parking space dimensions, landscape requirements, and was proposed in such a way to maintain, protect, and preserve the existing front yard city tree with all prescribed protection areas. A letter of review was received from the city on June 8th, indicating the application met the physical criteria, which is great. And the owner then prepared a petition signed by agreeable neighbors in accordance with the municipal code, which was provided to the city. A month later, a letter was received from the city indicating a more thorough review had been conducted, which brought to light a technicality that would prevent the final approval without an appeal. The nonconformity was that the parking space was not constructed adjacent to a mutual drive. In this particular instance, adjacency to the mutual drive would mean removal of a city tree. Conversations with off-street parking, forestry, and Councillor Robinson to maintain the tree for improved potential for an appeal was advised, so we did. A drive in this area would seem fitting and in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. It appears that 53 neighbors on the block, 40 have either a drive for parking or access to parking. We also recognize there was an official poll that was taken. It seems somewhat misleading that the report summary indicated negative results. Looking at the poll in greater detail, it indicated 69 ballots were mailed out, 12 were received back in favor of the approval, 9 were opposed, and 5 were spoiled. And the rest of the 42 or 62% fell into the could care less category, having not responded. Furthermore, the owner's canvassing signatures speak greatly to support. So my client's requesting this small relief with minimal impact so that he can suit his daily life, and we appreciate your consideration for this.
Any questions of the deputant? Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Councillor Robinson. Of staff? Staff, please. Not to the floor.
I'm looking at the pictures on page 6. Attachment B,
So,
there's a house with kind of a teal color, and then there's the subject property, which is kind of brown.
so next is 32.
So my I'm guessing that the driveway is going be, where those railway ties are, right next to the Teal property, is that right?
Yeah, so it's going in between that stone wall that's there. I think
The
that you're
stone?
saying, yeah, it's a stone wall, and the tree. It's actually the adjacent property from that Teal property.
What? Yeah, it's right next to the, yeah.
Yeah.
So essentially what
So
you're
the
going,
proposed spot will take out that planter.
that planter.
Mhm.
Can you put it up on the screen and show us, or show, well, I'd like to see it. Right.
So the tree on the right is maintained and the planter.
Sorry, can staff point out to me where they believe the new driveway parking pad is going to be?
This is where the spot will be. I've got a better street view of it.
Right. So essentially,
So this is what will be removed, where the pad will be adjacent on this property.
yeah, and so there's not any space between the adjacent property. It's basically going to be continuous paved surface from the neighbor's property over there.
Correct.
Right. Okay. That was my only question.
Okay, any other questions?
Sir, I did. Can I get the photo back up there?
Photo back up, please.
I'm a picture guy today. So if the planter's removed and that's made hard surface, then what's the rest of the hard surface there?
It's going to look like crap.
Is
So
hard surface,
the current walkway, are you meaning? That's in between the tree and the planter currently?
is that what it is? Is it,
It's a walkway, it's permeable paving that's there. It's like a unit paver.
and to the, what I see as the right of that, is that the neighbor's driveway?
No, that's the property driveway.
So they want, sorry, so how much parking do they want in front of the house?
They want one front yard parking pad.
And what's there, is that's a driveway that's permitted?
The driveway is existing.
So they want to be able to park on the driveway and on the parking pad?
It's a mutual driveway.
Yes, it's a mutual driveway.
It's a mutual driveway. And what's the width between the houses, do you know?
I think that is on the sketch.
Because this picture doesn't look like a mutual driveway.
So the mutual driveway is about almost 2 meters, 1.9 meters. You probably can't read that, but that's what.
No, I can't, but thank you.
I can read it because I'm a
Thank
little closer.
So the mutual driveway is 1.9 meters wide.
Mhm.
And then there is hard surface between the tree and the front porch. Is a car parked on that now? Do they park a car on that?
Our enforcement records don't show that.
Is there any other pictures of it to see if there's any oil or markings or anything else? Because it looks, it looks like a driveway to a parking spot.
Anytime that staff have been out there, there hasn't been any parking on the driveway.
This is a request then to take the other side out, so the only thing that would be soft surface in the front would be the area around the tree. Am I correct?
Sorry, I didn't quite hear your question.
If the request is to remove the planter, so you will have the entire front surface of this property being hard surface, with the exception of the area that is currently green around the tree?
That's what the applicant is requesting.
Can you put that back up, the other picture, the sketch, so I can see that? So everything is hard surface then? The parking pad on the left part, then there's the tree, between the tree and the house, it's hard surface, and then,
Yeah, they're proposing this as a grassed area.
oh, to put some grass back in.
Mm-hmm.
I understand. Thank you.
So they have to meet a landscape requirement.
could they put grass in on between the edge of that and the property line? Or are they required to keep that piece soft, hard surface as well?
Sorry, I'm not sure I understand your question.
You're showing me a picture with a dotted line and a solid line down the middle of it. Correct. The dotted line follows the edge of the house.
Yep.
Could they landscape over to the edge of the dotted line, or is it part of the mutual driveway?
The mutual driveway would go up to the edge of the house, up to here.
So they could then landscape over to the edge of the property line.
In theory.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, speakers, please. Go ahead.
I'm not loving this application. I mean, my concern is always what it looks like, and the next door neighbor has a big driveway there, and then right next to it, you're gonna have another driveway, and it's gonna be that, you know, that big piece of pavement that doesn't really look very nice on the streetscape. And then, Councilor Shiner said, then just on the other side of the tree, well, plus they have a walkway, and then the other side of the tree, they have a shared driveway. So there's a lot of pavement there. Not something that I like, so I'm not disposed towards supporting this application.
Are there any motions to be moved?
I'll speak to it, Madam Chair. As it currently stands, I couldn't support this application because it puts far too much hard surface. What I don't understand on the application is if they really do want to park on what I'm calling the left side of the tree and take out the garden, why they're not filling in the right side of the property to the property line, which they can do, because the mutual driveway isn't required to be any wide, it isn't required to be on their property line. And then that would replace the soft surface and give them a parking spot on the other side. If that was in front of me, I'd support it. The way it currently is, I can't support it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, I get it. That's why-
Councillor Robinson?
Yeah, I'm moving alternate Rex.
What are the alternative recs? Sorry?
Before you in the report.
Granted,
Okay, you have the local councillor's motion before you. All in favor?
Was the motion?
Yes?
Chair, so we don't vote wrong.
They're there,
The
it's on
alt-
the screen.
Oh,
just keep the tree or remove the, I have a question for the mover.
Question to the mover, go ahead.
Does this retain the tree, or does this remove the tree?
It doesn't cite the tree in this. These are template alternate recs that staff put into the report. I guess we'd have to ask staff, but it doesn't address the tree. I'm looking
We're
at.
here to debate a
transportation staff.
tree. What?
Not
Okay.
Josh Cole.
refers the applicant to urban forestry as a next.
Oh, okay.
Item B.
Oh, I see, okay, you're right, okay.
This is front yard parking.
Madam
Okay.
So I
Chair,
guess it does.
I was,
Okay, so all in favor of Councillor Robinson's motion? 1, 2, 3, 4. Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It does not carry. So Councillor Pasternak is moving the staff recommendation. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 32 is next. Who is here to speak to item 32, 16 Clanton? You are? Okay, your counselor's going to come and talk to you for a minute.
Can you hold the item down?
So we're holding the item down for a moment. The additional items that were handed out this morning,
I got a 2 of.
those for who we have no speakers, we can deal with them. Do we have speaker for item 42, introduced by Councillor Cole? So
It's a demo permit.
demolition, 1603 Eglinton Avenue West. No one is here to speak to that item? Would you like to move it, Councillor?
Yep, I'd like to move the motion as, I don't know if clerks is available to put that up, but It is approving a demolition. It's a old abandoned building where they're going to start work on a condo next to a crosstown station, and there are some conditions I put in with the demolition permit.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Can we deal with Councillor Fillion's item 43, representation at an ONB hearing for Elmhurst Avenue? No one here to speak to that? Go ahead.
Yes, I'll move the recommendations. What committee turned it down, staff recommended refusal.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councillor Fillion again, 155 Drury.
And I'll move it, same thing, committee turned it down, staff recommended against.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Final one from Councillor Fillion, additional item 45, re-representation at OMB hearing for 52 and 56 Norton Avenue. What happened to 54? Stuck in the middle.
Committee turned it down, staff recommended against. I'll move the recommendations.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. That takes care of the additional items. The next item on the agenda is item 33. Councillor Cole, are you ready to deal with item 33?
33. That's actually been mislabeled. I don't believe that's in my ward. The fence on Elm Road. I think that might be Ward 16.
I thought there was an interest.
That's not this one.
Paul Stock, are you here? Yes? Would you like to speak on this item, sir? Is it? No, I'm sorry. No, you're not the side. It's 376 Elm Road.
If I may, ma'am?
Are you Tom?
I am he.
Yes, go ahead.
Tom Elichuk. Councillor Greb was so kind to make audience with us back a while ago in regards to the fence exemption. And I think you have a host of pictures, documentation, supporting letters, and all the documentation. If there's anything else, questions, I'd be glad to answer.
Are there any questions? No? You have a question?
Yes.
Go ahead.
How many times has your house been broken into since you've been there?
Once, and we had an attempted actual break-in, and we had an attempted about 6 weeks ago.
Okay. Thank you.
Speakers? Councillor Carmichael Greb?
I've been out to this location and seen the fence. There is a history of break-ins in the area. The neighbors have similar fences. Sorry, I'm going to be moving alternate recommendations. The neighbors have a similar fence, and the applicant is the only one that has had an issue for some reason. But for safety of his family and for security of his home and his neighbors, he built a tall fence, which is next door as well. There's, I believe, next door and the one next to that all have very tall fences to dissuade people from breaking in to the houses through the back.
Yes, staff? Is your microphone on?
Danny, this is for the backyard only?
Yes.
It's a rear fence.
Yeah.
It is to the backyard only.
Sorry, Madam Chair,
It is to the backyard only.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. You may sit down. The question is of staff.
after, no, a week past.
And it goes on the side yard as well, yes? The side of the house, right?
Through you, Madam Chair, it's a rear yard fence.
Yes, so
To allow the fence.
rear
All
yard
behind
fence
the
means
front
it's on
wall.
3 sides, is that correct?
Yes, all by the, behind the front wall of the house.
Behind the, okay, yeah, that's what I wanted to know. Okay, thank you.
Motions? All right. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councillor Pasternak, you have a motion for item 32.
Yes, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. I'd like to,
16 Clanton.
if we could put this on the screen, I'd like to defer this item so that I can have the opportunity of meeting with the homeowner, staff, and on site to discuss the issue and look at the various options that are available.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 33.
33?
Item 34.
What's the
Kit
address?
O'Rourke.
Wow.
Hi, good afternoon. Sorry, I have laryngitis. Good afternoon, Madam Chairman and council members. I am the co-owner with my husband of 47 Carmichael, and we've put in for a fence exemption around our pool. 2 sets of supervisors came came out to see our fence. It is a new fence. It's only less than 2.5 years old, approximately. It is well over 6 feet high in the lowest spot, nearly 6'10" at the rear of the backyard, and it is the fence that is around our pool, other than our newly installed pool. The boards are flush. They are, the wood is thick, and it is not climbable, and all our neighbors support our fence as being very safe. We have a special needs child who has Down syndrome, and safety is paramount, as with most parents, in our home and on our property. I also have a neighbor with me today who is very supportive of our safe east-west or horizontal boarded fence. I have some pictures, but I think they're in the application already. The ones you have are actually better than my ones.
Thank you. Are there questions of the applicant? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Speakers?
I have questions of staff.
Okay, staff, please. Councillor Carmichael Greb.
Is this fence climbable?
Through the chair, Councillor Carmichael Greb, no, the fence is not climbable as per our pool enclosure fence bylaw requirements.
And do you feel that this fence poses any safety issues?
No, I've reviewed the file and the documents, and I do not have any concerns with the safety of this fence.
Okay, thank you.
Speakers?
That would be me.
Councillor?
That would be me. I am going to be moving recommendation 2, the alternate recommendations to grant the exemption to permit the existing horizontal board fence. As you've heard from staff, there's no issues with this fence being climbable. There are no safety issues. We have a technicality in our bylaw about horizontal fences, but if they're built to be safe, then I see no issues with them being around a pool. So I ask that you support my recommendation.
All right. Oh, Councillor Robinson? No, I'm voting. Oh, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. So that was item 34. Item 35. I believe there are speakers. Evan Bard?
Hello.
And Evan Bard, again.
Oh, great.
Okay. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Evan Bard. I'm the authorized agent for the homeowner at Courtly Boulevard. I just wanted to take 2 minutes of your time just to explain the reason why the gate to the rear yard is, I guess, 40 centimeters higher than the proposed bylaw. The pool in the backyard is a pool-safe fence environment back there, so that's not the issue. The backyard was created for my client's grandchildren with the pool and a basketball area and a play structure back there. So she was very keen on creating a secure environment, promoting lines of sight, reducing lines of sight from the backyard to the side yard there. From a line of sight perspective, I don't see that, it's to the rear of the house. I don't see from a streetscape perspective that it has any negative impact, as well as from the neighbors. I understand that I don't have any neighbor or consent letters from the neighbors, but there has been discussion with my client to her neighbors that they don't have any issue with it. And once again, I understand there's no consent letters, but the focus of that fence there at the height that it is for the proposed security and the reduced lines of sight from the inside out.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? You may be seated.
Thank you.
Speakers, go ahead.
Sorry, I will be moving recommendation number 2 to grant the exemption to permit the fence.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Paul Stock, thank you. Thank you for your patience.
I am here, there we go, speak on a fence exemption application that was submitted on March the 7th. It may not show up well here. The fence is on our front yard, right here by the blue. We were doing some repaving and asked our landscaper to add a front yard feature. He went and looked at some other similar structures in the neighborhood, and this is what was built. It's 1.9 meters high, understanding the requirement is 1.2 meters. It's also was intentionally built 2 feet off the property line, and I did meet with Councillor Carmichael Greb as we discussed similar properties in the neighborhood. So as you can see, our property is where the star is. Around the corner on Greer, there were 2 structures that were quite similar, and I have photos of those as well, along St. Germain, Melrose, Fairlawn Avenue. These are the structures that are within, 2 of which were within the 600-meter radius of our house, which are both higher and closer to the street than the fence that we built. And then it's difficult to see. I think they were in the application, but the another 7 examples within walking distance of our property of fences that similarly were greater than 1.2 meters. Color doesn't show up great here, but our property is highlighted in yellow at the top. Letters of support, 8 letters of support, some signed by 2 property owners in blue, and then another 11 that were submitted to the city between the March 7th and today's meeting.
Thank you, sir. No questions? Motions?
Yes, I have one.
Go ahead.
That could go up.
You may be seated, sir.
So I have a motion to grant the exemption to permit the existing cedar board fence on the front yard with the following conditions. And those will be all listed in 1 second. There we go. So with the following conditions, the Director of Transportation Services has reviewed this, and there is a slight encroachment of 0.2 meters within the public right-of-way, so we've included the encroachment to enter into an encroachment agreement into this. There are no sightline issues. There's no issues with the sidewalk or people driving. It's far enough back that there are no sightline issues. So I ask you to
All right,
support this.
thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Is there anyone here, I think this may have been an error. We had held item 7 and thought that there was a speaker. Is there anyone here for 847 to 873 Shepherd Avenue West? No? Councillor Pasternak, would you like to move a motion on item 7?
Sure, I'd be happy to move a expanded distribution area for notice of a public meeting. The clerk can put it on the screen.
Okay. And Councillor Shiner, if you're within earshot, please come back to the chamber.
There we go. So, yeah, it's just an expanded notice area.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next item, 41 Hawkesbury Drive in Ward 24. Is there anyone here to speak to this item? I have one speaker here, Babak Goneli, yes? Is this the only speaker out to this item? Okay, welcome, sir. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. Well, dear members of the Community Council, dear officers of MLS, my name is Babak Goneli, the owner of this property, and my issue is that I have horizontal boards enclosing my pool at the backyard, and my request is agreement to the exemption which I have submitted. Actually, I finished the construction of my recently built house just last year, totally custom made with the best possible material, which includes also the boards used for setting up the fence. The boards are quite durable, almost no gap between them, and more or less leaving the possibility of laddering or climbing up those fences impossible. Of course, the professional opinion about this matter lies with the professionals and officials of MLS, whom have already inspected the site, and I believe they would agree with the high quality and durability of the wooden boards. So, concerning this matter, my request is the acceptance of the exemption or a recommendation of reinforcement with the least impact financially or visually on the design of the fence.
Any questions? Questions of the applicant? Thank you, sir.
Questions of staff?
Staff, please. Councillor Shiner?
It's this particular fence, which is a horizontal board-on-board fence. Do you have any concerns with its safety being around the pool?
Through the chair to Councillor Shiner, no, I've reviewed the file as well as our bylaw, and I'm satisfied that the intent of it being a non-climbable fence is complied with, and there is no safety concerns.
Will you be coming back in the near future with recommendations on horizontal fences, to your knowledge?
Yes, and through the chair to the councillor, one of the reasons I'm here today is we recognize that our fence bylaw with respect to pool fences in particular is outdated, and we are working to bring forward revisions to that bylaw that would be more recognizable of horizontal board fences as well as other types of fences and materials. So yes, that is our commitment.
Now, horizontal board fences can be made out of different thicknesses of material. Is there a thickness that you recommend so it doesn't bend or warp, so it's non-climbable?
With respect to the thickness of the fence, we are reviewing that, what that requirement would be. A minimum of 3/4 of an inch would be what we would be recommending at this moment, but we have to do some further review of that. One of the requirements we will be bringing forward, if we do have fence exemptions or other, is that the owners are always required to maintain their fences so they're non-climbable. So it doesn't even matter if it was a chain link fence, for instance. Things can change over time, and there's always that requirement that owners shall maintain their fences to be non-climbable, and that would be what we'd carry forward with.
No further questions of staff?
Thank you. Speakers?
Well, being in the ward which I represent, I'll speak. I have no problem moving the alternate recommendation to permit the fence. The applicant here has reached out to my office. He's been in touch with my staff, which I appreciate. They've discussed it, and we checked in advance with staff, who also had no concern for safety, inasmuch as our bylaw prohibited the horizontal board fences for safety reasons, and now staff find that fences like this one here are not a safety issue. I have no problem in going with the alternate recommendation and allowing the applicant to have the fence installed. I would, however, just hope that when people are putting these fences in and hiring people, they'd get their contractor to come in advance, make a request so we could build, so we could approve the ones that were appropriate, because this is somewhat backwards, and it's very hard on the people that hire professionals to come in, to tell them what they should have, to recommend a fence type, to build a fence type that they think is in the bylaw, and then have someone knocking on their door and put them through the angst and aggravation that may happen in cases like this, to go through this approval process that really should have been done before the fence was built, and I would think that a good landscape firm would do that.
Thank you.
Thank you to the applicant.
You have the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. We go to the 2 o'clock public hearings now. Item 38, 40 Park Lane Circle. I understand that the
I have a motion on that.
deputant isn't going to speak anymore.
Yeah,
Go
I have
ahead.
a motion. So there's two recommendations in the staff report. I'm going with number 2, which grants the exemption to permit the proposed wrought iron fence in the front yard to be constructed as described on page 2 of the staff report.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 39, we have Saint Germain Avenue, Sarva. Here, are you here? Thank you. Welcome. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Hello, I'm Sarva Jadidian. I co-own and 538 Saint Germain, and I live there with my family. The application is for the fence around our backyard and around our pool, a horizontal fence. We are requesting for the exemption because the boards are there are no gaps in between the boards. We believe that the fence is not climbable, and we've had the fence for almost 3 years now. There hasn't been any twisting or bending, and it's in very good shape. So we're hoping for the application.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Carmichael Greb?
Yes, I will be, sorry, I have questions of staff first.
Okay,
Sorry.
you may be seated. Thank you.
Is this fence climbable?
Through the chair to Councillor Carmichael Greb, no, this fence is not climbable.
And are there any safety issues with it?
We have no safety concerns with this proposed fence.
Thank you.
Next. Go ahead.
I will be moving the alternate recommendations, number 2, to grant the application for a fence enclosure exemption.
If you could just wait a moment.
Oh, yep.
Oh, here we go. Okay, go ahead.
So I will be moving the alternate recommendations, which are on the screen.
All right, you heard the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Item 40, 445 Glencairn Avenue. Lucas Atkins? Sir? Go ahead.
Thank you for the time. I live at 445 Glencairn Avenue. I'm here to request a fence exemption for my horizontal fence, which is flush and safe and not climbable. Thank you.
Motion?
Just a question for the deputy.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Where'd you go? There. Could you come back, please? There's a question.
Did your fence company know that they were installing an illegal fence?
According to them, no.
So they don't know about fence bylaws and...
No, my contractor and the group that built the fence, along with the designer, have all been pointing fingers at each other.
Thank you. Okay, you have the motion?
Just questions of staff, same questions. Is it climbable? Is it safe?
Yeah. Through the chair to Councillor Carmichael Greb, no, the fence is not climbable, and yes, it is safe.
Thank you. You can safely not climb it. I'll be moving the alternate recommendations, please.
All right.
To allow for the exemption.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councillor Pasternak, you are holding item 24. Can we deal with that now?
Yes, I'd like to defer that to the next scheduled community council meeting.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, Richard Bradlow, 225 Strathallan Wood. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity to address council. My situation's similar to half a dozen others that you've just heard, so I'll try to be incredibly brief. I have a horizontal wood fence around my pool. Like the others, it's more of a wall than a ladder. The gaps between the boards are millimeters, and I believe it's absolutely impossible for a small child to be able to climb this fence in any way. My neighbors have all submitted letters of support saying they're happy with the fence and see it as no issue whatsoever. In addition, 2 of my 3 neighbors actually have vertical fencing on their side of the property. So really, even if it was a ladder, it would be used to escape from my property rather than get in. But it's, as I said, more of a wall than a ladder, given the minimal gap between the boards. So in summary, I guess there's no safety issue in my view. All the parties, myself and my neighbors, are happy with it, and it would cause a significant expense and inconvenience for me to have to change it at this point. So I respectfully ask for an exemption from the council. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions of staff?
Go ahead.
Is it climbable? Is it safe?
Through the chair to the councillor, no, it is not climbable, and yes, it is safe.
Thank you. I'm going to be moving the alternate recommendations to grant the exemption.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councillor Cole, are you ready to deal with item 18?
Yes, I am, Madam Chair. I believe I believe my motion has been revised.
Can we see it, please?
And now is to direct the Director of Transportation to pull eligible households, report back to North York Community Council on the results of the poll, which I think is a difference. Direct staff to develop and provide a traffic calming speed hump plan to be included with the poll, and to direct the director to investigate the feasibility of reducing the speed limit on Elm Road. And that all that would come back at the same time with the poll results to North York Community Council. So it all comes back here for our approval.
Any speakers? Councillor Minnan-Wong.
Yeah. So, if you look at the report, this is what number is this? This is
18.
Number 18. When you look at the counts, there is no speeding. Like, there is just no speeding. So this idea of looking into, here we are, vehicle speeds in the morning are 34 and 41. Average speeds are 34 and 35. And then the second piece, 32, 32, 25, 31, the third part of the road, 43, 38, and 36, 32. 32 kilometers an hour. Like, so the average speed, 32, 31, 25. You know, the average speeds are all like substantially under the posted speed. So I don't want to sort of lead anybody on in this. And sometimes when you put out a poll asking for their opinion, what you're doing is, and they're looking for traffic calming measures. There's no need for traffic calming measures because there's no speeding. So I just as soon vote against the traffic calming. And I appreciate what the councilor's trying to do, but sending it out there and just, you know, extending the life of something, of trying to create a problem, is not something that I think is a great idea. So the road is fine, the speeds are low. I just as soon accept it and just receive the report, or adopt the recommendation, the staff recommendation, I think, which is to do nothing. Is that the recommendation? Yeah, deny the installation of speed humps.
Okay, so if Councillor Cole's motion fails, we go to Councillor Min Wong's motion, right? All right, all in favor of Councillor Cole's motion? 1, 2, 3. Opposed? 1, 2, 3.
I think Shiner was in favor.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so it carries. So it carries. Thank you. Item 17 is next. We have speakers on item 17. Sabrina Chan.
You're going to have to see the problem.
Thank you for coming. You have 5 minutes.
Hi, I'm here on behalf of Andrew Brown. I work at Lee Consulting, which is a transportation engineering consulting firm. So we have reviewed the warrant analysis for the all-way stop control at the intersection of Glencairn Avenue and Alexandra Wood, which was conducted by the Transportation Services at North York District. So this intersection, the east-west road is Glencairn Avenue, which is designated as a collector road, and the north-south road is Alexandra Wood, which is designated as a local road. So the stop control warrant has 4 criteria. The first part looks at the collision history. The other criteria look at the volumes. So this is what I will be addressing. For the volumes, we have 3 criteria. One looks at the total volumes for the entire intersection. The second one looks at the volumes on the combined vehicle and pedestrian volumes on the major roadway. So that would be the pedestrians crossing the major road, which is Glencairn Avenue. And then the third criteria looks at the volume split between the major and minor approaches. So the analysis that was conducted by Transportation Services North York District showed that the results does not warrant a all-way stop control. This is because of the low pedestrian volumes and the higher volume split. Consideration must be taken because this is a special intersection. It is located in a neighborhood where residents are primarily of the Jewish faith and in close proximity to a synagogue. Because of this, the volumes could be higher. The study was conducted on Thursday, March 27, 2014, and for the people of the Jewish faith, they traditionally observe Sabbath on Friday and Saturday, so that would be from sundown Friday to sundown on Saturday. So if the study was conducted on these days, we would expect a higher pedestrian volume, which would affect the results of the analysis. Yeah, So we recommend that the study be reconducted on either Friday or Saturday to capture the highest peak pedestrian volumes at this intersection.
Is that it?
Yes.
Oh, you're done?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Any questions for the deputants? I just have one. So you're an independent traffic management or study company that had a sober second look at what staff had prepared. And your conclusions are that it meets the warrants of a four-way stop.
It does not meet the warrant based on the numbers that was conducted by the city staff.
It meets the warrants on what you conducted?
No, I have not conducted a traffic survey. What I'm saying is that their analysis does not capture the highest pedestrian volumes, which would be on a Friday or Saturday.
Your feeling is the city staff did the study on the quietest day of the week.
On the quietest day?
The quietest day of the week. Is that? I'm just trying to think. You mentioned Friday night, Saturday. It's a Sabbath for many people in the area. Your conclusions from that are?
That the study should have been conducted on Friday and Saturday, not Thursday.
Okay. Got it?
You're not a traffic engineer, correct?
I am an engineer.
Sorry, that's not my question. Are you a traffic engineer?
I'm a transportation engineer.
Pardon me?
I'm a transportation engineer.
What does that mean?
My background is...
Are you qualified to conduct traffic studies?
It's not a court.
No,
Counselor?
no, I'm sorry. You brought it up.
No, she brought
She
the
brought it up,
deputy
so
brought
I'm
it.
asking questions.
Right, but
Her answer's unclear. So she said, I asked, are you a traffic engineer? She says she's an engineer. And then I asked her again, and she says she's a transportation engineer. I don't understand what the difference is, so it's a simple question is, because she's basically saying, she's suggesting that she's qualified to undertake these studies.
Yeah.
Question is very simple.
There is a specialized...
Sorry. Mr. Chair, the question is very simple. Are you qualified to undertake traffic studies?
Yes.
Yes. Did you conduct, that's yes, right?
I did not conduct a study, no.
Sorry, but you haven't conducted a study, so what you're essentially saying, well, you could go conduct a study, couldn't you, because you're qualified, but you haven't done that.
No, I was not retained to conduct a traffic study.
No, but I just want to know if you're suggesting, if you are suggesting that the information that we received is somehow inaccurate, why don't you go and do a study? Do you need to be retained? Do you have the qualifications to do this, yes?
It is not our job to conduct a traffic study for the city unless we've been retained.
Who's we?
My consulting firm, Lee Consulting.
I see, but you're a traffic engineer. You could go and you say you have the skills to do it yourself, yet you and the community haven't done that.
I could if I wanted to.
Pardon me?
I have not been retained to do it.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
No, it's not. It's going to the point, Madam Chair, just on a point of privilege. She's making some assertions that somehow the traffic study's not right. And she's saying that she has credentials to speak to that, yet she doesn't have any information.
You're trying to
show
ascertain
it.
her credentials.
And I'm asking her
Okay.
if she has the information, if she thinks it's so wrong, why doesn't she go and do it herself to bring that information here
but
so we can make the right decision?
Counselor, since it's not a court of law,
I'm not
let's
saying that it's
let's stop it now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Suzanne?
No, she's saying also.
To the speakers, I'm worried about quorum, so please note that.
Okay, thank you so much for taking the time to consider the stop sign in the corner of Alexandra Wood and Courtly, and Alexandra Wood and Glencairn. I am here on behalf of many people who couldn't be here since this item wasn't timed, but they join me in their support of the stop sign. I moved to Alexandra Wood 3 years ago. I am a mother with 4 children under age 9, and many of the community have small children as well. The very first week I moved to the block, there was a biker that got hit by the car right at that corner. Nothing happened to him miraculously, but that's when I first realized something had to be done. I believe there have been 3 traffic studies, and each of them have denied giving their approval for a stop sign. They wrote to insufficient volume of traffic, and it's correct what that woman said, that there were 4 items, accidents, volume of traffic. I do think there are many things the traffic study doesn't take into consideration, and I know you've been here a long time, I'll try to be as quick as possible, but from living there, this is what I've experienced. Alexandra Wood is between 2 streets that both have stop signs, Glen Rush and Forest Wood. The traffic is already ebbing and flowing between those 2 stop signs, so drivers tend to pick up speed to get to the next stop sign, specifically at the intersection of Alexandra Wood and Glencairn. I put up a picture here. I don't know if you can see, but there are a few curves in the road here and here before you get to Alexandra Wood. When drivers pick up speed, there's virtually no way for them to see the crossers as they're standing there waiting. And so you start crossing midway, you see a vehicle coming, you back up. There have been many of times when I've been standing trying to cross with my kids. We cross halfway, we see a car, we run back, we try again. It's almost funny if it wouldn't be scary. I could literally grab onto my kids. I cross that very regularly to get to community centers, to visit family. There's always lots of pedestrian traffic. It's very hard to get a clearing to cross. Number 3 was Alexandra Wood is actually on a hill sloping downwards. Kids on scooters and on bikes have a hard time stopping at the corner properly. Cars in the winter with icy road conditions actually skid when it gets there, and the cars coming on Glencairn do not stop, lending to very dangerous conditions. Number 4 is there is many community centers and schools in the area. There are literally thousands of kids walking weekly across this intersection. Many synagogues and schools have lent their support. I think they have some letters that you received from principals all saying they support the stop sign for the safety of the children. The last thing is that the study said that not enough accidents have happened. I think we've only had 6 accidents. First of all, I think it's sad to have to wait for accidents to happen to put the stop sign. And second, I know firsthand that many accidents do go unreported. My own husband got into an accident this winter when he couldn't stop fully on the ice, and that accident was not reported. So every single neighbor and resident that I reached out to said they were in full support of the stop sign, and I just want to thank you for your consideration, and I hope that you can put many parents and young families' minds at ease by putting in a stop sign so that our children can safely cross the street. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item? Go ahead, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and councillors. Thank you very much for hearing us. My name is Tom Unger. I registered to speak. I live at 54 Alexandra Wood and have been there for 8 years. I've seen firsthand what Suzanne has outlined, and I'm not going to try and repeat, only recognize every point that she's made as being probably understated, having been in the area a little bit longer, and very valid for your consideration. I'd like to raise a couple of other points, however, and it's important to realize that in the map that Suzanne showed you, the blind corner when you're coming west on Glencairn from Glen Rush towards Bathurst is exactly that. It's a very dangerous and blind corner, and people, when they leave Glen Rush, if they even make a full stop, are on their way to cruising along at a high speed, and until they're very close to Alexandra Wood, they don't really realize that there is another street there, and I think it would help greatly if we can slow down the traffic for traffic reasons and safety reasons, mostly safety. Now, I have the good fortune of having older kids, but I also get a lot of exercise and walking from taking my dog out twice a day. So if you can picture how many times I've been on that street and walking in and around that intersection in 8 years, you realize how familiar I am with it and how concerned I am. There are many small children both on the north side on Alexandra Wood and the south side, and then many over on Glen Rush and to the west on Forest Wood. It's important for you to realize that there's only a sidewalk on one side, so some people trying to get on the sidewalk make it safely across the street more than one way, going north or south, on the west side or east side of Alexander Wood, which does not have sidewalks. And I'm often at that intersection walking along and noticing all too often the difficulty that the children have with the parents or caregivers in trying to get across. It is not a safe intersection, and certainly it would be a lot safer if the traffic is stopped. Another point I'd like to make is that when people are coming around the corner and they see people trying to cross, sometimes they're trying to be courteous, not always, and stop and letting you go by. But it doesn't happen on the other side, so you could be faced with a situation where one car in one direction is stopping to help you across, and the other car going the other way is buzzing along, totally unfamiliar with what's going on, and therefore you have heightened risk. Last point I want to make, and I read with interest the traffic count and study that you did. That would not factor in, and it's very important, that would not factor in the fact that many, many people and many cars are using our street, Alexander Wood, as a shortcut because Bathurst is so busy. So a traffic study on people going south and taking a shortcut on Alexander Wood and crossing at Glencairn are not going to be part of your traffic study. My guess is, with some certainty, that there's many more cars passing through that intersection than any traffic study might count. Those are the main points, and I think it would help overall if you decide in our favor.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this item? Because we're ready to vote. All right. Motion, please.
Yes, I am. Sorry, 1 second here. Where am I? I am going to move to approve the all-way compulsory stop at the intersection of Glencairn and Alexandra Wood.
Okay. Councillor Min Wong. Staff, please.
Question, this doesn't meet the 70-30 modal split, right?
That's correct.
So that means, so that one of the deputies made a comment that there was all this traffic on the Alexander Street. So the fact that the modal split is 81 would actually mitigate, there's less traffic on, substantially less traffic on that street. Is that fair to say?
Glencairn is a collector roadway, so it has a significantly higher traffic volume than Alexandra Wood.
So also when you don't have at least a 70-30 modal split and you put in stop signs, you're actually potentially creating a safety problem because the motorists are less likely to pay attention to the stop sign and roll through it.
When there's less traffic volume on the side street, there's less chance that when people stop on the collector road at the roadway that there'll be somebody there, so that will encourage non-compliance in the future, and you get rolling stops.
You get rolling stops, so you're creating instability, safety instability, because people don't know what to expect.
It's possible.
Right.
Also, if I could just add to that, so that's kind of my understanding as well. Also, my understanding is there's a certain type of collision that increases. Is it angular or back?
It's right angle collisions.
Right angle collisions increase?
Oh, sorry. That's what they're meant to solve. What can increase is a rear end collisions.
So this type, when you put in stop signs that aren't warranted, the rear end collisions increase?
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
It's possible. Yeah.
So you don't have you need to have I think a firm directive on this, because your staff have told me multiple times at public meetings that's actually so if possible sometimes is not an acceptable response. Could you please answer the question?
I say the likelihood of a rear end collision will increase if you put a stop sign that's unwarranted.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Min Wong to speak, and then Councillor Pasternak.
So I'm going to vote for the staff recommendation. So I understand that the residents think that a stop sign will solve this problem. They're actually what the transportation engineers our transportation engineers who are qualified in this say is that it will create instability. It creates uncertainty because after a while, cars will roll through the traffic, and then Councillor Robinson raised another point about rear enders, so that's going to increase as well. So those are two excellent points. The other point that's going to happen is, this is why you don't do it when the warrants aren't reached. So what will happen is, and we've all seen it happen, is if you support a stop sign that doesn't meet the warrants, then a whole bunch of other people on Glencairn, they're going to be coming in and ask for exactly the same thing. So you're going to have stop signs all throughout that street. And there are already. Well, maybe that's the reason why we shouldn't put another one in. But I just think that we have warrants for a reason, and we put this stop sign in, we're making it less safe.
I'll be supporting the installation of the stop sign and the local councillor. I've spoken to many of the residents in the area. They know this intersection intimately. They know the risks that are taken. They know that many accidents are not reported. Unfortunately, the warrants are 16 years. The warrant thresholds are 16 years out of date, and that it seems to me that based on anecdotal evidence, the unreporting of accidents and the increasing volume, and the study date picked for the report in front of you, leads us to conclude that a four-way stop would be warranted at this intersection. So I will be supporting the local councillor for a four-way stop at Glencairn and Alexander Wood.
Thank you. We have Councillor Carmichael Greb's motion. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Opposed? 1, 2. It carries.
But there was one who was left out.
It carries.
There was 3.
It still carries.
Oh, I know. Was it
4 to 3?
4 to 3. You didn't call.
All right. Thank you. Item 9 is next. 901 Lawrence Avenue, 3050 and 3010 Dufferin Street, and 40 Playfair Avenue. The first person on the list is Maria Gatzios, the consultant.
What number? Where are we?
9.
9?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of council. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Maria Gatzios. I am a planning consultant. I'm the applicant for the landowners. We are here to express our support to continue to work with city staff and council towards the review and processing of this application. We know we have an upcoming community information meeting, May the 11th. We understand that through staff we've been asked to assist the city in ensuring that as much of the community is notified of that meeting as possible. We have agreed and are posting the May 11th community consultation meeting notices on site. We are also agreeable to ensuring that we distribute the notice as much as possible through our email distribution list, again as requested by the city. And I'm here to answer any questions and, as I said, ensure that council and staff are aware that we're willing to continue to work with city and staff through the process. Thank you.
Questions? I'm passing the gavel. Do you know why the community meeting is off-site and not at the Columbus Center?
No, Madam Chair, I don't. We were advised of the location by city staff, and we had offered early on any assistance to city staff with the meeting or to host the meeting if the city wished.
So you would have no objection if I were to move or if someone were to move that we have a meeting on site, a consultation meeting with the community at the Columbus Center?
No, absolutely not. Actually, Village Charities and the school board hosted an open house to inform the community of the ongoing review. So no, I can look at my client, but there's absolutely no reason why we wouldn't be happy to host that.
And why was the meeting scheduled before this meeting? This is the meeting, North York Community Council, when we are to take it upon ourselves to ask for a community consultative meeting.
just to clarify, are you asking why did we hold an open house prior to the city's community
No,
consultation meeting?
I'm talking about the meeting May 11th.
I'm sorry, I can't answer that. It was city staff who scheduled the May 11th meeting.
Do you have plans to show us of what the precinct will look like, the master plan?
Yes, Madam Chair, we did submit a master plan as part of our complete application. It was in our planning documentation, and if you wish, I can pull it out, but it was submitted as part of our application.
Yes, I'd like to see it. I'm just wondering why it's not part of this, because it looks piecemeal to me, that we're just dealing with one corner of the plan and not the entire master plan.
Madam Chair, if I can assist, as you know, through the staff report and our application is for this particular building only. Our application does not seek any additional or further development approvals at all on the balance of the site.
Oh, okay, that's good. So you're not going to be coming forward with any application on the rest of the site?
No, Madam Chair, that isn't what I said. I said this application is only for this building. I can't speak to what the landowner may or may not do in the future. This application seeks specifically and only to permit the proposed mixed-use building on the corner of the property.
But we want to know what's going to happen to the rest of the site.
Fair enough, Madam Chair, and we were asked that question by staff through many years of consultation. We provided a conceptual master plan of what may occur on the balance of the site, our best guess at this point in terms of opportunities. But I want to be clear that two things. The first is that this application does not seek any additional permission beyond the one mixed-use building. And in fact, even the introduction of the public road that is part of our application was something that staff asked us to do and urged us to do, and indicated that they would not be comfortable with the proposed mixed-use building without the introduction of that public road. It was not our initial intention to introduce any public roads. So the application before you is for one mixed-use building and that one public road at staff's request.
So your contention is that you did brief staff, our staff, on what the precinct will look like, and they have that information?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Correct.
Are there any other questions? Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you.
Maria Rizzo, Trustee Rizzo, you're the next speaker.
Chair, who's the owner of this? Like, that's the consultant, right? But
Villa Charities.
so Villa is the owner, or how does that? Who are Villa Charities, right? I don't know how the structure works. Or maybe I'll ask staff. Sure. Later.
Welcome, Trustee Rizzo.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Maria Rizzo, and I'm the trustee for Ward 5. That includes Dante Alighieri. I also am the trustee for Ward 15, Ward 16, Ward 23, and Ward 25. I think all of you were here. Pardon me? I can't hear.
You're a recovering city councilor.
Right. Anyways, that's who I am. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about Dante Alighieri. Dante Alighieri is located on Playfair Avenue. Its closest neighbors are, located on a private, very residential neighborhood. It has a school of more than 600 next door. It's got 20 portables. Let me put it into perspective. You know, when you go into City Hall and you go up to the council chambers and you're crowded into that little elevator? That's what the educational environment is like for the kids at Dante Alighieri. They are squeezed in like sardines. I can't put it better in any way that people will understand. So my job here is to make sure that we build a Dante Alighieri for this generation and future generations to come. I want you to know that the building was built for 651 elementary school students. So they have no science labs, they have no library, they have no, I mean, like of any, magnitude. They have very little in terms of a cafeteria. They don't have any technological supports. They don't have classrooms for people with physical disabilities and the most vulnerable in the community. And it's because it was never built to be that way. It was built for an elementary school. So what did we do? We decided that we would go and find, well, first of all, we got $32 million thanks to the provincial government to rebuild Dante Alighieri. And we went around, and people in the community really are sick and tired of the kinds of things that are happening in the neighborhood. Constant traffic on Playfair Avenue, 2,000 kids between the elementary and the secondary on that site within, a few feet of each other, 20 portables on site, and the traffic of come and go of people getting to work and picking up their kids. So we decided that we would ask the Toronto District School Board if we could rebuild a Dante Alighieri at CB Parsons. And the Toronto District School Board said no. And we asked if we could rebuild Dante Alighieri at Bathurst Heights. And the Toronto District School Board said no. And there may be a little bit of confusion between Councillor Cole and myself, but when we said, well, how about we rebuild it on the present site, the answer at that time from Trustee Cole was, I won't repeat what he said, but it was basically not. And I don't blame him. Well, who in their right mind would want 2,000 kids and families on their local street? You know that schools don't make the greatest neighborhoods. Some of you around this horseshoe have already been school trustees, and you know that from firsthand experience. You know that as counselors that schools don't make the greatest neighbors. It's not because we don't want to do it, it's because of the nature of the beast. We have kids. And kids are difficult to control at the best of times, especially when they're not in their classrooms. So and by the way, I guess the other one is, we actually asked the Daughters of St. Paul, so the Pauline Daughters that are located on Dufferin Street, if we could buy their building and their property so that we would rebuild Dante Alighieri. And the Daughters, after 3 years of negotiations with the Daughters, said no. So Village Charities came to us and said, we have an alternate proposal, would you consider this? And we did, and we hired the architects, and we developed a plan that would service both the needs of Village Charities and the students. And that's my primary responsibility. So basically I want to say that this proposal could be a destination not only for Italian Canadians, but it will be an educational cultural mecca for the city of Toronto.
You're past your time.
Okay.
Are there questions?
I hope there are, because I'd like to tell you what I appreciate
Councillor
doing.
Cole.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess my first question could be, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, I do. Thank you very much. The only thing that I wanted to add is I understand that you have some, that Council has already adopted considering the heritage proposal. I don't believe that this development needs to be delayed in order to accommodate that designation or be part of the process for the heritage designation. It really should be going in tandem so that it doesn't get delayed. I've been working on this particular project for 13 years, and the kids still don't have a school, and it really is unfortunate that we haven't been able to spend the money and put a shovel in the ground. The second thing that I wanted is to make sure that a true community hub would include the neighbors, would include the residents, would include the seniors, would include the community, and would respect them to accommodate their needs within this facility. The school board is totally committed to that concept, and I believe that Village Charities should be as well, and I believe that they will do something to do that, hopefully. And there will obviously require further consultation in order to, so that, basically so that we could fine tune the details to respect and accommodate the students, the community, the seniors in this neighborhood. And that's all I have to say.
There are more questions?
Yeah.
Councillor Minnan,
I do have a
sorry.
question still.
Go ahead.
Yeah. The $32 million from the province for the funding to build Dante, when was that received by the Toronto Catholic District School Board?
2012.
2012. And at that point, I remember I was a trustee in 2000. I think at that point, Village Charities and the Toronto Catholic District School Board approached me with the concept of a joint use facility. When the funding was received by the board, was that kind of partnership already in place between Villa and
No,
the school board?
it didn't come into place until we knew that the government would fund us, which wasn't like actual funding. I mean, we had proposals into the government probably about 2 or 3 years before that, but it was 2012 that the government actually decided that they would support the development of Dante Alighieri for a new building, and they're waving their their flag, saying this is great for Toronto, this is great for the province, this is great for the country. And to be honest, as an Italian Canadian, I think that it has value if it's done right. And I mean real value, that's something that will carry on for future generations and be proud of.
Some local residents, and I guess maybe more Columbus Center users, have been concerned about the absence of, the pool's the one I hear the most, but running track, a few other things. Is the school board open to a concept or a plan that would see those elements in a new facility?
We are, but we don't have the money for it.
But you wouldn't be adverse to having those uses?
No, absolutely. In fact, as you know, Mr. San Giorgio has come up with a plan. It's similar to the one at Loretto Abbey now. It's a running track above the gym. So the gym is very high, and this happens to be a triple gym. So there could be a running track built on the upper level of the gymnasium. In terms of the pool, I understand from talking to Mr. San Giorgio today that there is a plan. I haven't seen it. Village Charities hasn't shared it with me. I have met with them asking them to please accommodate the pool, and they said that there wasn't any money, not only to build it, but also it's, as many of you know, it's expensive to maintain.
Great, thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, so, going forward with this project, my question is are you going to build a school that's going to be big enough? And I say that within the context of, it seems to me that often whenever you build a new piece of capital infrastructure, you get it wrong, and a few years later, there are portables that are popping up. So I use the example of Senator O'Connor and St. Bonaventures.
No, absolutely.
Senator O'Connor now they're rolling in 6 portables, and it's a pretty new school. And then you look at St. Bonaventures, I hear they're getting 4 new portables after they got an addition.
1 new portable.
I heard 4.
Well, you're wrong.
No, I just talked.
Sorry.
I talked to the principal.
You're wrong, but I made sure it was air conditioned.
That's what he told me that. So my question is, how come can you have demographers, or apparently you have planners, but they seem to, and when you go to the planning meeting, they say, oh, we've looked into it, we've looked at stats can information, but they don't always know all the new developments. Can you do they watch this stuff? Because they don't seem to get it right. We shouldn't be having portables in these schools, brand new schools.
Yeah, well, I couldn't agree with you more. I hate portables. I spent the entire time as a school trustee getting rid of them, only to see them resurface again. And we did a small addition, as you know, at St. Bonaventure to make sure that we got rid of the portables.
And here we are.
We did that at St. Cosmas and Damian as well, so to get rid of the portables. I believe that what happens is that people see a brand new building, and even though we accommodate for what our planners say will be the projected enrollment, they see a new building and they will come. that is the problem. And it's up to us to make sure that we have some boundaries in place to make sure that it services the local community first and provides for really the most vulnerable in our community, if that's because most of the buildings that are being built, are accessible to the handicap, for example. So we try and, it's a bigger, wider area that we accept kids from. I wish I had a magic wand and say, get rid of all of the portables, but I can't.
Build a bigger building in the first instance.
Pardon me?
Build a bigger building at the first instance.
Councillor
Well,
Pasternak
the
is
government
next.
won't give us money to build a bigger building.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just wondering whether the deputant is aware that the only thing before us today is scheduling a community consultation. We're not approving this proposal at all.
Well, I understand that you adopted a motion at council last week to consider consider a heritage designation for this site.
Okay, but that's not before us. I'm reading the motions before us, and we're trying to schedule a community
Well, I
consultation.
believe that you're about to hear the motion that will be before you that says exactly that.
Well, I'm not a mind reader. I don't know what my colleagues are going to
I guess
What's the point
present.
of what's the point of the question?
Well, we're just here.
Well, I'm asking him, he asked it 3 times.
Well,
and
the
he,
point is-
he,
I understand it's a preliminary report. I'm
yeah.
not stupid. I get it.
yeah.
Okay,
There you
no,
go.
I appreciate your sarcasm. Just another question. The current enrollment at the school on site?
The current enrollment is over 1,000. The enrollment has decreased because of the uncertainty of the school community and what we were doing. So we were at probably about 5 years ago over 1,400, and we've lost 400 kids.
And under this plan, capacity would go to?
The capacity is for 1,250, I believe.
1,250, the optimum number of a high school. Yeah, you're bang on that one. Deep concern from users of the Colombo Center, the recreational facilities. I'm assuming the school board can be understanding and flexible and compassionate when it comes to.
I want to do it right, Councillor Pasternak. There's a lot of money. I really do want this to be something that we can all be proud of. For the kids, who attend the school, for Village Charities, and for that community. And in order to do that, we need to do it right. So whatever it takes, but I can't invent money that we don't have. So I can't build a swimming pool because the community wants it. That is up to Village Charities. I can accommodate them through supporting the architecture, supporting the community, supporting what Village Charities wants, but I can't do it for them. I can't pull it out of my pocket and say, here's $10 million.
No, we're not asking the school board to fund it.
Councillor Fillion is next.
Yeah, just a quick question. So you're here mainly to say, do whatever consultation you need to do, but don't slow things down unnecessarily? Is that sort of the gist of what you're saying? Because
That's exactly what I'm saying. I think that you know how long it takes to even get a site plan. Sometimes it's 2 years. Never mind what's brought us to this point where you have a preliminary report in front of you. All I'm asking you to do is, if it's a heritage site, great. Okay? Then it can go, and we can say at that point, but don't stop it from happening now. Don't stop the process of continuing in terms of the rezoning application. And what we need to do to get done to get this school and a shovel in the ground.
Thanks.
Is that it for the questions? Thank you very much.
And thank you for listening. I'm sorry, Councillor Pasternak, I didn't mean to be sarcastic.
All is forgiven, don't worry.
Oh, thank you.
Odoardo Di Santo.
My
Madam Chair and members of the council, thank you for giving me an opportunity to express to you my concerns and the concerns of the Italian community. I want to, in 5 brief minutes, I'll try to tell you what is our point of view. We have no qualms with the Catholic School Board. I'm a little bit surprised of the fact that there is a novel concept now that it's better to build a school on a major arterial way than in neighborhood. Where I live, there are schools in the neighborhood, and we have no problems, never had any problems. Now somebody's telling me that it's better to build a school at Lawrence and Dufferin. The application that before you, it's not an ordinary application. It goes to the heart of the Italian community. I want to tell you that the community, the Columbus Center was built in the year after 1977, when the government of Ontario gave 15 acres of land to the community. And the purpose of the center was the realization of a cultural recreational center, a center by Italian-Canadian community for the metropolitan Toronto community, a tangible contribution to the province. And we have done that in the last years. We have built a center that is non-dominational. Actually, I want to tell you that the major protest against the demolition of the center comes from the Jewish community, which is one of the communities in the neighborhood and which is the most vocal. In fact, if you read Il Corriere Canadese today, the people, seniors who use the center, they are those who are protesting most. The center is not only a place where people go and convene, is the heart of the Italian community. In the past, when the other day we had a commemoration of the Italian fallen workers, because in that place there is a monument to 1,500 Italian workers who were killed on the jobs. And there were 1,000 people, the largest crowd in Toronto in the morning day. When the Italian president comes to visit Toronto, he meets the community at the community center. In the community center is housed the Dante Alighieri, the oldest and most authoritative Italian cultural institution. In the event of major earthquakes, the community center becomes the focus of the organization of relief and fundraising. And also in lighter moments, in the World Cup, when the Irish and the Italians went to watch a game, the World Cup between Italians and Irish, where did we go? We went to Columbus Center. Italian lost in that case. If there is a book presentation, where it happens in the Columbus Center. Columbus Center is non-profit art exhibitions, community meetings, youth and senior services, adult education. If you demolish, the question is that if you demolish the Columbus Center, you demolish part of our heritage, of our heart. And the question is it necessary to demolish the Columbus Center? I say no, because I'll explain why. If you look at the report, you will see that the new building, and I was intrigued by saying that the school board will allow the seniors to do this, will allow the community center. So we are now the owners of the building. And from now on, we will be subject to the school board. In fact, now there is 604 parking spots. the size of the center will be reduced from 16,000 square meters to 7,000. No one has given us a rationale for shrinking the Columbus Center. The parking lot will be 117 parking lots south of Block 1, if you look at the map. And the others will use the other spaces around. But today I was very interesting to know that you don't have a master plan, so you don't know what happens in the east side of the lot. And I can tell you what will happen. The official plan provides for high rise. So we will have a school in a quadrangular building, awful, and surrounded by high rises. And where will they park the people, the 604 people now? I have to speed up. I know that. I thought that I had more time, but I think that will create an incredible problem. Where will they park? On Lawrence Avenue, on Dufferin Avenue? So I think that this is a proposal that cannot be considered if we don't look at the whole area and what will happen. And
Thank you.
okay.
Joe Baglieri is next. Oh, would Mr. Volpe like to go first? Yes, that's fine, doesn't matter. Yes. I don't know. Welcome, Mr. Volpe. We're very happy to see you today.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you to all the council members. Let me introduce myself so you know what I'm about. Some of you may know that I used to, at one time, serve the same honorable profession that you serve, and that is at the service of the public. I am the publisher and president of Canada's, North America's only Italian language daily newspaper. I live in the area. I used to be on the board of the Columbus Center. I actually was remotely associated with the founding of Dante Alighieri. I did not teach there. I had kids and now grandkids at Regina Mundi, one of the schools that was mentioned earlier on. So I have some intimate understanding of the location. The issue, as I understand it before you today, is whether you want to consider that this is a heritage site or not. And the only concern that I would have is that you would make decisions prior to the public consultation that is going to take place next Thursday. I would think that probably the most wise decision, although it's not for me to give advice, is that any decision be deferred and postponed until such public consultation. Whether one considers that this would be a heritage site, I'm willing to speak to that, and the paper would be willing to speak to that. Whether this should be mixed in with the school board's right to build schools to serve the community and the children in the community, that's a different issue from our perspective. We think that right is inviolable. In fact, there are two schools, as you've already been told, and one of the schools used to have 1,400 students. Today it's less than 1,000. The expectation is that it might go up to 1,250. That's really an auspicious expectation, given that the demographics illustrate that in the last 2 years, the population of Canada has actually dropped from local births, and that the only way that it's sustaining itself is through immigration. There aren't that many people who would be going to Catholic schools that are coming into the area, say from the Philippines. That's an entirely different discussion from our point of view. And so the issue of talking about whether the community deserves good schools is a decision I think best left to the trustees of the board of the Catholic School District School Board and with the public school board. We have a long history of relationship with them. As I said, I lived in the area since 1972 uninterrupted. I'm not an authority on any of these things, and I'm willing to say that immediately. You are the authority. But the Columbus Center has served a cultural community value for the entire area since its inception, as Mr. DeSanto indicated, 1977. It has been the locus for all activity, cultural, community, social, political, and, dare I say, commercial. If there is a president from Italy who would come here, and there have been two, their first stop is at the Columbus Center. If there has been a Canadian Prime Minister who has denied his or her own right to go to the Columbus Center to meet the community of all ethnic backgrounds, I think that you would be hard-pressed to find any, save perhaps Kim Campbell, who didn't have an opportunity, given the schedule that she was faced with, to attend. But every one of them has gone there. It is a locus for art, as as others have indicated. It is a place where community building, social, artistic, literary works take place. It is the library of the Italian community. It is the art gallery of the Italian community and of the Canadian community, including, for example, something that some of you would be familiar with, but perhaps not expect to find. Chinese artists have exhibited at the Columbus Center on many an occasion. And the reason for that is that the Columbus Center and in its art gallery was constructed with the specific purpose of serving the community writ large. And the community has taken advantage of it. Were it to be demolished, it would present a great loss to the community. Should it be demolished in order to make room for something else? Only if that something else fulfills the same function. If it doesn't, I think the decision would be questionable. Madam Chair, I've exhausted your indulgence, and I don't want to press the matter further, but I'm willing to ask questions in the regard.
There are questions of you. Councillor Cole is first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your presentation.
Thank you.
You spoke, I think, to maybe what is the nut of the issue and really nicely outlined everything that happens at the Columbus Center. How much of it is brick and mortar that accommodate all of those uses versus the uses themselves? And I guess my question is, if something was built bigger and better that accommodate everything, does that kind of allay some of the concerns? Or is it the specific building with this history and heritage?
Well, as in all cases, once you have the infrastructure, the physical infrastructure, you attach a lot of social, cultural, and spiritual, emotional value to it. This one has that already. You've also heard that the structure that's being proposed to replace what is currently there is about 56% smaller, actually. I think you're going from 16,000 and change square meters to 7,339.27 square meters. That suggests a reduction of 56% of the capacity that's there. Insofar as one needs to have capacity in order to generate all of these cultural community activities, then it would be a severe loss.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. My question, I'm passing the gavel, was more or less along the same lines. I heard Trustee Maria Rizzo speak with passion, and I'm a great supporter of the former councillor and present trustee. And she spoke about the nature of the programs and for the school children and how it would be a betterment for the site. But I'm trying to reconcile, and I'd like to ask you how you're going to reconcile that need, because it is a need in our community, and it's your community just as much as it is mine, even though you live there. How do you reconcile the losses that we're going to be experiencing at the Columbus Center if this goes through with the gains that we make in the educational community?
Well, we're talking about a fruit basket, and we're talking about different types of fruit. So I don't want to compare apples and oranges. As I said, I've had children, and now I have grandchildren who make use of the Columbus Center in a way for programs that are not available in their schools, and they attend schools in the area. So how do you reconcile providing the same program to them as they're transitioning out of the community by eliminating ones that are there and available for them that are contiguous and supportive of a program that the school board provides?
Well, are you of the opinion that enough consultation has happened around this?
No.
To
None whatsoever. This morning, in bringing one of my grandchildren to school, I was approached by several parents who are, I don't want to over-dramatize the situation, but who are despaired of the fact that the only consultation meeting that they've attended, one that was held, I guess, when I was out of town about 2 weeks ago, that they didn't find was sufficiently informative, so they asked, who else? The local paper. That would be us. I had to confess that I hadn't been up to date because I just landed the other day. And I advised them to go to the community consultation meeting that you've scheduled for May the 11th. I said, we're going to be there, and that's where we intend to find any questions that need to be answered and to make any reconciliations that need to be made or to file any objections that we think need to be filed.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. I'm going to. Thank you, sir. You may be seated.
Thank you.
Before Mr. Baglieri comes up, though, I was remiss in not dealing with an item before this item. Councillor Carmichael Greb, you have a motion to introduce and enact certain bills.
Yes, that the North York Community Council pass and declare as bylaws Bills 503 to 516 prepared for the May 2nd, 2017 meeting 22 of the Community Council.
Shall these bills be passed and declared as a bylaw? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councillor Cole, you have a motion to introduce and enact the confirming bill.
That the North York Community Council pass and declare as a bylaw confirmatory bill to confirm the legislative proceeding of the North York Community Council acting under delegated authority at meeting 22 on May 2nd, 2017.
Shall this bill be passed and declared as a bylaw? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Mr. Baglieri, please.
Madam Chair, I regret, I just want to ask one question because I have to leave. So what's the quorum number for this meeting?
6.
So if I leave, you lose quorum?
Yes.
What happens to this particular item?
It goes on the agenda of the next meeting, our very next meeting.
Okay, so.
Thank you.
I regret I can't stay. I got to go.
Madam Chair, just as a, before, maybe could you just stay 1 second here while I have my point of order? Sure. I do have some motions I would like to move.
Yes, but we haven't finished dealing with the
minute
deputants.
this councillor leaves, we're not dealing with deputants at all.
Right. But
Well,
I was calling you a counselor, which you are.
Former trustee.
Yes. Oh, that's right. I forgot. You were on the Catholic School Board as well, right?
That's right. With Mr. Filion. But
just
if the matter is going to be postponed, I would rather speak at the next meeting so that my words will not be forgotten that easily.
Okay. Francine. Thank you for your indulgence, everyone. This item will be on the agenda of the next Community Council meeting, and we'll try to provide a time. Francine?
We didn't even approve the community consultation on it.
No. Thank you.